Don't let it integrate into your normal workflow like a 9 to 5. But if it doesn't mean you can't think about it, it doesn't mean your ideas aren't going to pop off in your head, but write it down. Just literally write it down to get it off your mind, and then you can pick it up later.
Brotherhood Studios actually kickstarted for us to essentially guide what you're doing today in a funny way.
Basically what got us the NBL gig.
We reached out to the NBL.
And my last message to Jason was like, hey, it's Darren. I've created a page called The Juice and it's all about NBL.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of TTC TV. This is a YouTube show by 2Times Creative. That's me. That's you. Designed to help you dominate content creation while Darren and I do so also. How are you, my friend?
I'm very, very well. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad you almost said it 2Times Creative was just you, but I am in the band as well.
It wouldn't be quite two times, would it?
No, exactly right. 1Times Creative, but I'm well. How are you, Michael, my friend, as you just referred to me as?
I'm very good, thank you. We are nearly up to double digits. Isn't that sort of... I'm not going to use the word crazy, but it's gone quickly.
It's not crazy. It's a good little milestone, but many more on the way.
Many more on the way. Hey, what are we doing today? We've got a themed episode.
You know, I'm very excited about this one because I was just saying, I'll say off air, I'm not sure whether it was your idea or mine. But
No, it's mine.
It was yours. But we're going to go through all the little side hustles and projects that we've ever done. And many of them don't exist to this day, but that's not the point. We wanted to just like be transparent with what we've done throughout the years. I've done many, you've done many as well. But they basically just help us get to where we are today in terms of, I don't know, confidence, learnings, educations, like jobs. They literally help you get jobs. So it's exciting.
It is exciting, and I was just laughing because the size of Darren's list compared to my list is... I think I made a joke in last week's episode that Darren is great and also sort of not laughable, but there's a humorous side because he has an idea, he has to create a brand, he has to create an Instagram page, he has to try it, which is a great trait. But no, as you said, I think it's a consistent thing in a lot of creatives that, particularly for where we are now that we like have our own content production business, it's not the first thing you try. It's not the second, it's not the third, it's not the 12th for someone like you. It's the 13th, it's the 14th go of creating something.
But that's the exciting part because you, like you said, I come up with an idea, you get motivated, you create whatever you need to create. And then the exciting part is if you are going to do it after 5 months or it's going to last 5 days or 5 years. Like it's really cool because you don't actually know.
And that's part of what we'll cover because 5 days, 5 years,
they're a bit different.
They're a bit different, yeah.
There's some gaps in between that, but that's what the best part about it is.
So it's going to be a fun episode. If you are, I guess, maybe you're inspired to create a new brand or it's been something on your mind, this is the episode for you. Or maybe you've done it in the past and perhaps have learnings yourself or want to know how to better do it next time, for example. Hopefully today's episode will help them.
We'll probably provide reasons to do it or not to do it. Yeah. Some clarity. That's what I'm going to go with. But we do have a few questions. We've just got one question to cover today. Feel free, Michael.
Well, I was just going to say we went out with because it's
actually. Did we say? Or what have we like? Do you want to touch on your week a bit? Or
I've honestly been in the editing zone. So I've needed to get out of the house because I've felt a bit I guess isolated in my study because it's a little segue, a good reality of working for yourself that you live and work in the same space, and sometimes you get so caught up in your own deadlines really that you forget to get outside and do some stuff. So I've just been heavily in the editing zone. So nothing too exciting for me, Darren.
But you did step out and have a breakfast to sort of get yourself away from your studio, which I think is important because people do say this freelance road is a lonely one. At times.
Yeah, it can be lonely. I had a breakfast by myself and did some early 2025 goal setting, which was actually very enjoyable.
Shared it with me. Very good exercise to do.
Yeah,
I like that you did that.
But that's not what
I found it
interesting,
by the way. I found it interesting what you wrote down. So
well, maybe we'll do a bit of an episode on it next week.
Could do.
Could be my thing I talk about. Before we get into this, Darren, what about your week?
No, I've just been in Sydney.
Yes,
Sydney's a lovely place, actually. Segue a bit into some travel pod.
I like how we've got a themed episode and now we're talking about travel.
Well, I think it's good to catch up. Relatability is a big part of branding, Michael. People relate to us. So anything you want to know about me personally and you personally, just let us know. Anyway, let's get into the question.
I was going to ask what you did in Sydney quickly, just while we were there.
Yeah. Well, main reason was work, NBL, launching Indigenous Round.
Yes.
A nice clinic there with the sort of Indigenous community. Very cool to sort of integrate with the kids. It's always one of the best parts of the job, seeing the professional basketball players go out to these communities, and the kids are always funny, whether they're like rugrats in terms of like they're quite.
Good word usage.
I always refer to like rascal kids that like the ones that like are loud and bubbly and tackle you and stuff is just rugrats. It's a great way to describe them. But that's always a plus of the job, seeing those guys integrate with each other. It's cool.
Smiles on the kids' faces.
Exactly.
Nothing more wholesome. Anyway, the question for the week. So we went out for questions based on this theme of creating your own side brand. Lincoln, tips for setting up processes to help promote your side brand around full-time work commitments.
It's a great question. And I think you see a lot of how some people handle it themselves, because every situation is different. Maybe you work from home, maybe your hours are, I don't know, maybe you only work 10 to 3, maybe you work 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's all different. But what comes to mind first?
I think what comes to mind is let's base this around you're working full-time 9 to 5 hours, because I think a lot of us have gone through that. I've been through that myself, where you've got, and you would have too, where you've got something that you want to work on after work. It might even come to your mind. It might be in your brain during work hours, and it's hard to sort of not spend time on the side project, particularly now that everyone's working from home, when you're in work hours. So my biggest thing that comes to mind is it's very easy to overthink this. So just do exactly what you should be doing. So 9 to 5, do your 9 to 5. Then after work hours, it's totally up to you what you do. So you shouldn't feel guilty, even if it somehow relates to your full-time job. What you do in those non-work hours is up to you. So the biggest thing I've learned is just do it. And if you do feel sort of awkward, or that you might be not doing something wrong, but there is that sort of middle ground of, should I be doing this? Yeah. If it's after or not in work hours, it doesn't matter.
No, it's your world. You can literally do what you want at those times. Like you often hear people say you're 5 to 9 before you're 9 to 5. And if you're a morning person, great. 5 to 9 before your 9 to 5 is great. But if you're not, that doesn't matter. Do it after hours. I'm not a night owl. I'll happily be in bed if you're the same at 9 or 10 p.m. or whatever. But you really have your own schedule to work with. But you do kind of just... It's kind of exciting, honestly, to think about the hours before and after that you have to do whatever you want to do.
You've said it to me plenty of the times. There's so much time in the day that you actually don't realise.
That's true.
I guess what we're both saying is don't overthink it and just do it. If you do feel guilty about it, you might have been through stuff like this yourself. I think it's just worth also just being transparent with your manager, saying, look, especially if it somehow relates to your full-time job, just be like, look, I want to do this side brand sort of thing that it's like a side passion. Is there any trouble with it? And 90% of the time there won't be. So just be transparent.
Especially, I think what you said at the start is so true. Like, understand that, don't let it integrate into your normal workflow, like 9 to 5. But if it doesn't mean you can't think about it, it doesn't mean your ideas aren't going to pop off in your head, but write it down. Just literally write it down to get it off your mind, and then you can pick it up later. But what was the other thing I was about to say? Something really came to my mind that I wanted to
land
touch
the
on.
plane. You don't like that saying?
What does that mean?
Well, it's sort of just like if you've lost the train of thought, but land it. Like land the thought.
But what if you can't remember?
Then you didn't land it.
Oh, okay, I didn't land the plane.
Okay, so it's gone.
I think it's actually gone. I was just we can take some time. Maybe chuck some music.
Yeah, thinking elevator music. I think.
Yeah, I've lost it.
I think with this though, if you're working on something around your 9 to 5 job, there's a good chance that you're thinking about doing it after your 9 to 5 job in terms of making it full time. So it is actually, in my opinion, very important to do this during the time you're at a full time job, if that makes sense. Because
test is in a time to trial it. Right?
Yeah. Don't, because a lot of the time we want to see if this can turn into maybe a full time thing or something after our current job. Now is the best time to test that. Yeah. Don't sort of wait until you quit your job you're still at to trial it. There's nothing wrong with running an Instagram page on the side. Plenty of people do it.
Exactly. No, it's a good point.
Did you find your thought?
Oh no, the plan is still not landed. It's actually I just said the plan is not landed, so I'm out of sorts. The plane. It's actually one of the most frustrating things when you want to touch, especially in a setting like this where we're talking about stuff and you're just like, yes, great thought, Darren, and then for whatever reason you lose it and then you have nothing intelligent to say. So I apologize, but I think we should move on.
Yeah, it's fine. I think it's a good question, Lincoln. I hope that helped. If not, reach out to Darren. I'm sure he'll give you his thought that he forgot.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. I should keep thinking about it. But Michael, let's jump into some side hustles, some side projects, because I know you've had some shockers over the years. And you're actually a lot worse of it than me. So, do you want to go first? No, I'd go first. Sorry, I've stuffed up the run sheet.
No, it's fine. I think it sounds like it's been something you've been meaning to talk to me for a while about my bad projects, but we'll save that for after. So it's a bit of a hook to keep you around
and to
for Darren to berate me.
Sure, no, Michael tries hard.
Where did it all start, Darren?
No, I was going to set the scene. So how we're going to do this is rather than me just rambling through the what I've done, I reckon we'll do it as in we'll bounce off each other. Yep. I'll give you the name of my project of whatever I did. You do the same with me, and then the other one will come in and from their memory tell the other one what they remember of that project.
Just and to ask keep questions about it.
Yeah, just to keep things interesting.
Nice.
Because I was looking at some of your list and there was a few things I was like, I know it, but I'm also not 100% sure how it worked. Yeah. So it's quite fascinating to a trip down memory lane.
Yeah. We'll revisit it for both of us.
Exactly. So, sorry, did you want to say something to me?
No, I think it's a great point. Your creative side brand journey, where did it begin? What was the first thing that you can recall that you did?
Well, it's kind of like a fun exercise, honestly, because there's a few things, even like putting it in terms of timeline and time frame. It's like, did I do this before that? But trying to remember them all is quite a fun journey. But I think it all started with YouTube for both of us because that was sort of, I'm jumping the gun here, but Brotherhood Studios was our first ever like YouTube
combined YouTube, but we'll go one at a time. So talk about
sorry. So DJ235 was my first ever YouTube channel.
Everyone would have heard of that if you're listening to this. DJ235.
Tell us a bit. What's your memory of that?
Well, it's essentially the same as what Brotherhood Studios turned into, but I actually think you started YouTube NBA mixtape editing before me, or you were a bit more into it because, as we're about to discover, mine was called MMM-ICL33, so it wasn't really not much better than yours, but you had a bit more branding to it, and we basically made NBA mixtapes.
No, mine had backstory because DJ235 is every time I played basketball, I wasn't a big scorer, and I always found myself scoring 2 points, then 3 points, and I'd end it on 5.
Oh, wow.
And then that was it. And I always, for some reason, there was a period in my life where every single basketball game, I swear I finished with 5 points only. So that's why.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
what do you reckon? Sorry.
Dominant. I was dominant on court, just like I dominate content like right now in 2 times
5 points. No, it's good. It's good effort. Interesting one. What do you think intrigued you, or why do you think you first started a YouTube channel?
Well, I would like to go back to the very first point. Like, I'd like to go back to those moments to work out how we actually got into it. But yeah, I don't know. I think Maximilian, like a big inspiration in that sort of YouTube basketball scene. We probably saw people like him. We obviously loved our basketball around that time, or just getting into it or whatever. And then we were just like, that's really cool. Let's
love video editing.
Yeah, that's our own version of it. So it's funny looking back on that. I had 3K subscribers. That's not bad.
I think when you had that channel, I feel like we were quite appreciative of how many subscribers you had, because I thought you had a lot.
I mean, big dog.
It's good, and that is a good segue into what that turned into.
Yeah, no, so exactly. So then, so we both had our own YouTube channels beforehand, but then we're like, you know what?
Actually, while we're on it, so both our individual YouTube channels, mine was the one I mentioned, 579 subscribers. So big 3K subscribers, 579. What do? We combine them and become the ultimate powerhouse.
I don't know how you got into that. Like, you were just like, you know what? I'm going to use your audience. No, I mean, we were just like, so it was quite funny. So basically picture this, because every time we, on the weekends or getting home from, was it school or uni or something?
Preschool.
Our senior prep. Kindergarten. No, but all we used to do was like, we got home and then the TV was on in the background, and then both of us would have our laptops on like the side arm of the couch, and we'd just both be editing NBA mixtapes the exact same. Like, we're like, what are you working on? Tell me the name of what player, and like, cool, I'll watch it when it's done or something. And then I think one day we're like, why don't we just like bring ourselves together and we can obviously double the output of the videos. So now Brotherhood Studios, incoming new YouTube channel that we combined together with.
I don't know, it's in many ways how 2 Times Creative was formed, but just in a video editing sense. So Brotherhood Studios was the name we came up with, and it's exactly what we were doing, just under one name. And we turned it into a bit more, not ultimately professional, but it had a name, it had a logo, it had not a website, but it was just a YouTube channel that we grew to. How many subscribers?
It was kind of, we eventually, we had 3.5K, so.
Still do, it still lives.
Wait, that's hilarious. Did we ever, it's literally combining both our audiences of our original.
Oh yeah, 3K plus 579 subscribers, and it ended on 3.5. Bit of poetry in that.
Well, so you're saying that, in theory, the audience probably just like all carried over from our other YouTube and nobody else joined?
Well, we don't know. But
that's funny. Anyway, Brotherhood Studios, I was thinking was almost like the first 2 times creative because, like you said, we did not in the same what we do, it's similar, whatever, but in the sense that we made it a bit more professional. We got a logo, we got some merch. We got some merch.
Oh yeah, I think Elise organised that.
Yeah,
some mouse pads.
Michael's lovely wife organised that. I don't know if you still rock your BHS t-shirt. Mine's at the bottom of my barrel.
I don't think I have it.
Yeah, it's a bit sad actually.
But it's fun to look back on. Do you remember? I was just thinking when you were talking about how we used to edit on the sidearm of our chairs. Do you remember the excitement of revealing the final edit to one another? Saying, "All right, Darren, my da-da-da player LeBron James mix is done," and you literally like. Because you really wanted the other one to be happy with it because it was their channel as well, and you could tell the ones, not that we're the most enthusiastic creatures, but the ones that hit, the other one would be like, okay, yeah, like that's good, and that was enough to be like, I've nailed this one.
That's true. It's a great feeling, like just showing it for the first time because in the back of my mind, you know you've done a good or average job, and sometimes you're like, I've nailed this, but then if the other person doesn't react, you're like, I'm questioning it all. But another part of like business life that Brotherhood Studios opened us up to was like bad clients. Do you remember? So there was a few times we actually got like paid gigs, and we're like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, that's
like,
important to touch on.
Like we actually got a few paid gigs that people either reached out to us or we reached out to them, and we ended up editing. Like we put a lot more time and effort into those client ones. But there was one especially, the Michael Kidd-Gilchrist one. If any NBA fan out there, I think it was like probably our first. We kind of edited it together somehow, but
because we put a lot of effort in, or like we put a lot of focus on it.
Yeah, like it was kind of like a big project in our minds, and then we're like, this is awesome. Like people are noticing our work and they want to pay us for it. We were really happy with the output. We sent like the first version with a big draft in watermark over the top because we're like, well, we don't want them using it without getting paid, kind of thing. And then for whatever reason, we never heard back from the guy, and we just released it months after because we're like, we've worked so hard on this, even though we didn't get paid and we didn't get we didn't hear back from him. We're just going to launch it anyway because we really like it. But first taste of bad clients.
That's actually that was probably our first ever client. I'm going to just put it there because I don't really know what else would have been. But we ended up uploading, as you said, just as a normal video. But do you remember who that was for? Was it just for some like media outlet in America? It wasn't Australia.
It's just like it was like American. I think it was just like an American dude. I don't even know if it was like he had a brand attached to him. He just was some guy.
We were very raw to it though. So as you can imagine, we were probably pretty naive that people want to pay us. We probably would have charged like I don't know 50, 100. I don't even know.
I probably haven't improved on those rates.
But
for being honest,
it's a good lead into what Brotherhood Studios actually kickstarted for us to essentially guide what you're doing today in a funny way.
No, well, it's true. It's basically what got us the NBL gig, as we've touched on many times. But
no, let's tell it again. So we pitched. Well, we didn't pitch it. We reached out to the NBL. I think I originally came up with the thought because it was like at that point the NBL in Australia it wasn't nowhere near where it is today. I'm not sure if it had much of an internal team dedicated to video content. So Darren and I was just like, well, we've got this whole backlog library of video edits, like hype videos. Let's just use it to sort of reach out to the NBL and show them our YouTube channel. And met your boss for 7 years, Guy Neville. Shout out to you. I'm sure you're in here with probably a few questions to throw our way.
No, he says he scans through the episodes to see if anything, interesting.
Well, we'll tell you this time code when you come up. But 7 years later, you're still there, and we sort of use the YouTube channel as a portfolio of sorts.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. Like the best thing about this stuff, side projects, is just like, hey, this is evidence to what I can do.
Yeah.
So like without that, you're just like, I can do it. I promise you. Like, promise me. I mean, just trust me. I'm pretty good at video editing. But if you start a side brand, if you start all these Instagram accounts, websites, anything, it's really cool to be able to be like, hey, I would love a job to help you guys, but here's proof that I can help you guys. Yeah. You just point to them and you're like, well, go check it out. I don't have to sell myself too much.
It's a very good point, and one that I also think of. It's much better, even if we might think, looking at the numbers, we combine both of our channels with numbers in the names. It didn't sound very professional. DJ235, MMM Michael 33. How much better is pitching Brotherhood Studios with a bit of branding and dedication and time to it rather than a random YouTube channel? So
exactly, branding, trust.
Yeah, it builds a bit more trust. And even though we probably look back at it now thinking it probably still looked a bit amateur, well, I can tell you Michael 33 would not have probably impressed the NBL much.
But I will say those YouTube channels, like I know how much time and stuff we both spent on like thumbnails and like finding a different look.
Yeah.
Even that, like we were just like, this is great. Like
It taught us a lot though. I reckon.
it just gets you in the weeds of it all and it makes you actually better. But Project 3.
Yep.
We're moving on from YouTube videos for a bit. Aquila Design. What do you remember of that?
I actually don't remember. Was it just a graphic design page?
Yeah, pretty much just a graphic design company. Yeah, I mean, I did it like an email.
Sport?
And stuff. I think originally I was like, I'm going to do sport, but then I think I just opened it up to be like a graphic design service.
So you wanted, in your young Darren's mind, you just wanted a few freelance jobs.
Yes, well, because
Aquila.
my background is studying graphic design at uni, so I was just like, I'm going to make the most of it. It's still like a passion. I kind of had like two arms, video and design, so I was just like, cool. Jumped. That's why my projects kind of jump all over the shop because like I have different passions, and so same with you. But Aquila Design was basically just like a graphic design service. I remember the logo, nice green little bird because Aquila is like eagle or something. It has something to do with the eagle.
It's also a shoe.
Yeah, then I was like, Aquila is a shoe. But mine was much better and arguably more successful.
I think I liked the branding from what I can remember of it. I think graphic design was your differentiator from me and you. That was how we sort of changed it up. Any clients from it, Darren?
Next one
Not
is...
that you
no. It was... but that's the thing. You're young. Like, we're young and I don't know what age I was through here, but you basically just do it to... You challenge yourself, you test yourself, and you test the waters of some things, even if literally nothing comes from it. But you grow.
Well, you do it to do it. That sounds really stupid, but you do it because if you're not going to do it, then if you don't do it, you're just going to think about it nonstop.
I think that's my downfall with this stuff. I think about it, I'm like, well, it could be something.
I don't think it's a downfall. You don't know until you know, so just cross it off the list. Speaking of cross off the list, I like this one because Darren, you had a time where you're just like, I like writing, and I don't know where that came from, but again, content, media, through our eyes was what it was called. The next one, Darren's, how do you want to call it? Well, written content about athlete stories. That's what I remember.
Yeah, I think I just woke up one morning and I'm like, writing something I have not done, even though I've studied in graphic design and spent a lot of work on video editing.
And we're not known for reading books either, so it's not like this side of thing is not us.
Well, I think my whole passion in all of this stuff is telling stories in sport, because that's what it all comes down to. So I was just like, hey, and I think I made like a Wix or a Weebly or whatever
one of the free writing
website builders. So I made a proper thing, and I just started writing articles like I tried to do it from a different perspective because it wasn't like hey, this person scored stats like this points per game, whatever. It was more like I'm going to dive into some athlete stories and just write it from my own perspective, make it shorter, kind of make it slick. It was like a yellow and black branding. I remember that. And then I even tried to get like other writers, more established writers, to kind of write for the website.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a time.
I seem to remember it was quite raw, and like the words you used purposely were the words you speak, sort of thing, like your vocabulary. I know you never tried to like write properly, but I think that's what you used to try to make it stand out.
Whoa, I did try.
Like, like with these side passions, sometimes you can see like a friend or a brother or a sibling do something, and you're like, that's not how you talk or type, but it's a compliment. You didn't do that.
Yes, no,
through our eyes.
It is hard to it's called through our eyes, but then every time I try to
a bit of work.
Yeah, like I was like writing through our eyes, but then the abbreviation is obviously TOE, so toe, and I was like every time I reference toe, I'm
nice.
Like, didn't think that one through.
Does that still exist?
The Wix or Weebly or whatever probably does.
Check it out.
Actually, sometimes it's quite fascinating. If you have side projects like this that you've done in the past, go back and look at it. It's fascinating. You're like, God damn, that's horrible. That was not bad.
I was doing that this morning for one of mine we're going to talk on, and I hated it and loved it.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Next one.
So this one, I think this probably lasted like a month, but do you remember my Too Much Sauce Instagram account for sport?
I do. I remember James Harden, that was his saying, too much. Or a commentator made that about James Harden, but to my knowledge, it was just basketball. It wasn't graphic design or content. Wasn't it more like newsy?
Well, this is
it was like gossipy newsy, wasn't it? Like,
but this is the funny part because I literally don't know what that page was. Like, I was just like, Too Much Sauce. I remember the James Harden one where I literally just did like a graphic that said Too Much Sauce, and that was the logo. And then there was a few other posts that was just like, I actually don't know. It was like it was in theme with what happened in the NBA that day or whatever, and then I just wrote like a few words on a graphic.
I feel like you were trying to be. It was trying to be like a gossipy media outlet of like the cool culture side of basketball almost.
I don't know, but
I seem to have more of an idea of what it was meant to be.
I reckon that Too Much Sauce lasted literally like a week.
Maybe that led on to the next one because it's similar style,
Sure.
isn't it?
So then I went from Too Much Sauce, which was like graphic design, to so that led me into the Australian basketball scene called The Juice.
Something about food with you, sauce, juice.
True. So The Juice, Michael, what do you remember of that?
The Juice was what the NBL is today, but just from a one-man person in his study. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially. Like, so before I got the gig at the NBL, I essentially had this page called The Juice, and I would just report on NBA news and like
was it NBL?
Oh, sorry, NBL. See, I'm getting confused. But it was literally like a NBL source of news. I did some graphics, I did some video edits. I tried to reach out to players. I remember Jason Kadee is like an NBL veteran who I actually had NBL business with the other week. I tried to reach out to him on Instagram, which I should have done at something more professional, but it's just like I was like, hey, I might as well just DM him because that's the way the world is. And my last message to Jason was like, hey, it's Darren. I've created a page called The Juice and it's all about NBL. Would you be keen to? Anyway, he left me on red. And then it's quite funny. You look at that, which was years and years ago. And then my next message was something official from the NBL, like something from an official NBL employee. It was kind of cool.
But that goes to show, like, I don't think without knowing, I don't think the Juice would have helped you get the role at the NBL. But in certain circumstances, creating something that's exactly like what you'd be doing in the NBL, there's no doubt in my mind that would help people get jobs. No, maybe not in your case.
I would disagree. I reckon it did because even
No,
I remember Guy referencing it.
Oh, okay.
He's just like, so Guy.
How cool is that though?
That's what I mean. But that's the best part about all this stuff because once again, it's evidence. It's like, hey, I do this, and I think even though the brand itself,
I do this. You look at NBA. I'm different.
Look at my resume. But no, the Juice. Even though the branding and all that, I look back at it and I'm like, I thought it was great at that point in time, but it's not great. But I remember Guy literally saying like, your passion is clear from like that page that you run. So if it's nothing else but evidence that you're passionate about the brand and passionate about the job you want, then it's going to help you.
I think
I disagree. It did help me.
No. You've changed my opinion because I was just saying I don't. Maybe it's not something you told me when you got the job that someone referred, or maybe I've just forgotten. But it's actually such a cool thing to think about because people would go into job interviews. Let's use the NBL and be like, "This job is perfect for me. I would kill it. Like, hire me." Basically, I don't know how much that's going to work if you don't have something like this to clearly show your passion. You said it there. You've got evidence. You've got evidence of your passion. You can't make that up. You're not going to dedicate yourself to some random NBL Juice Instagram page with 30 followers unless you're.
That's the funny part, though. Yeah. It's like a reference. It's like a testimonial almost.
Yeah,
like it's like
to your passion and interest. And I just wanted to say it was called The Juice because you wanted to bring out the juicy side of Australian basketball, like make it more NBA American-y, right? American-y.
You know, I remember, Americanized. I remember we were sitting at some like beach house or something we were like on holiday with Jess and maybe her friends or maybe you were, I don't even know. But when I was thinking about The Juice, I literally remember having a notebook or like on my laptop while everyone else was like trying to relax or whatever. I remember I was just sitting there like getting really inspired by The Juice and I'm like, I was writing it down. I'm like, what does it involve? What is this? And anyway, it's cool to look back on.
Yeah, it is cool. What?
Oh, sorry. You go.
Next one is this is starting to get closer to home because this doesn't feel like too long ago if this order is right. I don't know if it is because, anyway, drawn by Daz.
No, it is, I think.
Yeah, drawn by Daz. This was, to my knowledge, I'm going from what you said you wanted the episode to be, illustrations and sketches on your iPad of that caricature style. I don't know if it was just athlete specific.
I think it was just drawing sport stuff in general. Yeah, it was. I went through a drawing phase, and I'm like, iPad and Procreate is awesome, and it's still really cool. And I still I'm like, hey, it would be cool if I stuck with that or whatever. But it's just time consuming, and then you see all these other people that do it much better, and you're like, whatever, I can't do that yet. But if you stuck with it, you could. I was gonna say that's actually an important note to pick up on. Don't compare to others based on if you're enjoying drawing athletes and sport thing. Darren should have continued with it, but I think. You, as you can tell by this list, people,
you are obviously a very multi-talented person.
Oh, thank no.
Or you try to be.
Yeah, I do try it. And
You
the
are.
So
You are.
I think this is gonna take a while going through all them. So let's make it quicker. But Drawn by Daz, I found it cool because my dad still rocks a t-shirt to this day.
Yeah, you made it.
One of the things I drew, I put it on a t-shirt. Actually, a fair few people bought that off. What's that? Etsy.
I'd actually like you to make more because so the t-shirt Darren's referring that isn't your most popular one. It was, I don't expect people to know Jose Alvarado in the NBA, but he had a famous quote there was something that happened in the game. Famous quote. It was more comedy than anything. Like it was one of those personality things. Darren quickly did up I want to say that week. You did a t-shirt, quick sketch of his face, very basic, but that's what works, and put the quote, printed on a t-shirt. How many do you reckon you sold?
Of that one, I think it was. I mean, it was like. Oh, actually, no. That one I get like maybe like 10 or 15 or something.
That's so cool, and I actually think if you had inspiration, like you should do more of them because it was pretty good.
Yeah, like it's funny looking back on that, and it's cool. You're like, hey, that's cool. Actually, people bought that stuff, and actually, some of those drawings by that, I'm actually still very impressed. Proud of myself.
Good. And at Drawn by Daz on Instagram. So I think it is.
Oh yeah, maybe it still exists. It should still exist.
Most of these should still exist. So if you go at The Juice, I don't know. Oh, Too Much Sauce still exists. I'm pretty sure Aquila still exists.
Maybe. It's
so
actually fascinating.
As you're going through this, you can find everything we're talking about. Same with mine when we talk about it. Next one, your inspiration for written content continues on. Is it both Medium and Substack?
So yeah. So quickly, this is my writing phase. Again, I just jump back and forth. But Medium was just like lifestyle stuff, and I was just like, I'm gonna. Do you remember? You're looking at like so. Medium's the platform where anyone could sort of like sign up.
I don't remember what you wrote about. Is my confused face?
Well, that's not very nice of you to support what your brother's doing.
I want to get 25 side hustles.
Well, if I can make time to do them, you can make time to view them. Wow, that's a good. I'll just say, if I can make time to do them, you can make time to view them.
Do you want to pause after that?
That was good. So Medium was like a lifestyle, and I was just like inspirational things like, oh hey, I've found a new routine this morning. I go for a walk every day, and it feels great.
It's like fresh air and shit.
Follow for more. That type, yeah, fresh air and shit. And then I was like, oh, lifestyle stuff is cool, and I actually did a 30-day writing challenge, 30 days in a row of that type of stuff.
Did you?
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Challenging is great. And then I was like, hey, I like basketball as well. So I wrote a Substack, which is another platform that you can sign up for. And then I just wrote what I was inspired about the NBA and NCAA and WNBA and a bit of NBL.
I love it. And I think this was easily the type of content that you made, the written content, was easily the one that I didn't consume. I consumed little of compared to the other ones.
That's because you can't read, Michael.
Correct. No, I don't know. It's just what appeals to me. And to be honest, we said you can make time. If Darren can make time to create it, then I can. Whatever you're saying was, it's tough. It is time consuming.
I've actually already forgotten it. If I can make time to do the crime. Yeah. Anyway,
so you're written. You've gotten the itch of written content out, and maybe this is
funny stuff. Sometimes I feel like I want to write some more. So.
We'll do another version 2 of this episode where Darren would have created 10 more, and it will be fun to look forward to. But I want to say, after your written content, this is probably the start of your podcast interests.
Yes. In the Booth was my really creative title because DJ Vasiljevic is a very established basketball player here in Australia. And because his first name is DJ and there's a DJ's booth in many clubs around the world or whatever, I was like, let's call it In the Booth. So that lasted, I reckon, 2 weeks. No, actually, the branding of that and the conversations behind the scenes was ongoing. Bit of stop and start. It's always very hard with athlete schedules and whatnot. But nice logo, nice everything. We launched maybe like a intro episode, and that was it.
What I remember from that, though, is that sparked your curiosity, which you'll touch on Shooter's podcast later. That sparked your... I guess probably the first time I heard you talk to me about I'd love to do a podcast with an athlete in Australia, because at that time, I'm going to say they existed, but they weren't what they are today. A lot of athletes have podcasts, which I love. It's all about storytelling. But at that point, Darren identified, I'd love to find a rare athlete in Australia that would like to create one. And DJ Vasiljevic, to his credit, I think he's interested in that space. It just didn't go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's in commentary now. Like, he
Yeah.
does commentary, he does more media, so...
Recently signed to Channel 10, was it?
Yes, I saw something come out. Like,
Yeah.
so I think he's definitely still interested in the space. So that was like the first tinkering with my podcast world. Yes?
Maybe the In the Booth inspired him to go to Channel 10.
Well,
Maybe he used In the Booth as...
I don't
you
think
never know.
There's no evidence. Well,
The pilot episode,
Yeah.
maybe he's like, I can talk.
I guarantee it wasn't a great episode. Next one. Then I went back to photography was always brewing in the background here, but then I'm like, I'm going to make a website. So Darren J. Barker.
Darren J. Barker website. There's been no evidence of your photography interest in the other things though, so maybe that's where it came in.
True.
You can actually start to build a pattern of your interests.
Yeah, it's
Like
true. There
It's
was
pretty cool. Go ahead.
There was an Instagram page, like Darren J. Barker was on an Instagram page before the website.
Oh, well, similar time.
So maybe I should just...
So quickly, this was a website dedicated for lifestyle photography, not
lifestyle
sport.
photography, not sport, all lifestyle. Who cares about sport? I'm like, nah, I'm more talented. I mean, I'm more... not talented. I'm not restricted to sport. So I'm going to do lifestyle. That still exists, but then that basically formed what 2 Times Creative is with you. Like...
Well, isn't Darren J. Barker your current Instagram page that you post photos to?
Well, I don't use it much anymore. But yes.
You're confusing the viewers. I think Darren J. Barker still exists for your other photography.
It does, but it's more like what I use the website for. So I used to like post even like, I think that turned into sport as well, like any side jobs that I got.
What's your side photography page called?
On Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren J. Barker,
Yeah.
but that's more like lifestyle. So through this, there's a bit of confusion with what I was using it for. But yes, Darren J. Barker was like lifestyle Instagram and just like photos I like taking as we did travel and stuff.
Yeah.
But then Darren J. Barker, the website, was I also started integrating like work I did with athletes on the weekends and stuff.
Oh, that is confusing. Anyway,
Which is what I was saying, which is then turned into 2 Times Creative with you.
I see. Apologies. For clarity though, if you're interested in Darren's non-sport photography, go check out Darren J. Barker is what I was trying to get to.
Thank you.
Current days.
Enter 2 Times Creative. This is a fun one. No, it's...
This is relevant.
I think this is obviously the best one. No, it's not even the one because this is definitely like this is a business. The rest are just like they're mini businesses.
Well, they in many ways, like we've covered your stuff that all led up to this point, but in many ways, everything you've done before this, same with me, has come to like what 2 Times Creative is and will be. Like it's not writing, it's not sketching, it's not everything, but the things you learned and the things that you took from creating those new brands and side hustles and experiences you went through, I think that's what has resulted in creating a business 2 Times Creative.
Exactly, and that's the biggest thing about any of this is above everything, it just challenges you as a person. It makes you grow. It might turn into something. It might get you lots of money. It might lose you lots of money. Like you don't actually know, but I think the best part is about it is you try it, you challenge yourself, and you grow.
Yeah, growth, personal development and growth is why we do it. And we've touched on this before, but obviously 2 Times Creative was designed to be a freelance thing. I decided to do it full time. It was always going to be a business, but it was just going to be a business on the side, which is very relevant to today's theme. But now it's full time. Darren's on the side still. And hey, we're flying. You've got 2 more on your list though.
Darren's on the side. I've got at least 15 more. No, I've got 2 podcasts to round it out. Shooters podcast, it still exists, but then my co-host, my good friend, Jack McVeigh, is now playing in the NBA in Houston. So
How dare he?
So it's a bit difficult to to keep our podcast going. But I always say this to you, credit to Jack, because he's the most sort of like normal guy. He's not normal. He says he's like crazy, or what's the word he used? Anyway, he had done it for...
Sicko?
Yeah, he says he's like, it starts with D. It means similar stuff. The plane is
delusional.
Delusional. He self-admits that he's delusional with these things, with his confidence, with his beliefs and all this stuff, but that's why he is where he is today. But the long story short, we used to do we still do a podcast called Shooters, all about the NBL, but then he made the NBA and now it's on hold.
So it's very much what Darren wanted, the interest with in the Booth podcast with DJ Vasilovic. It's that athlete hosted podcast. And quickly touch on when you created this, you approached Jack, or you put out a general call to people, and Jack McVeigh followed you, and he said, "I'd love to." And then he actually surprised you by asking you to be a co-host, not to just produce it.
Yeah, so let's quickly touch on mine and Jack's journey, because it started from an Instagram message. I was like, no, an Instagram story. I was like, hey, does any Australian athlete or NBL player ever think about doing a podcast? Because it's a missing space.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. And he just replied every day. So he thinks about it every day. Anyway, he was in the midst of like the playoffs then or something. So I didn't hear from him for a while. And then I reached out to him again, months down the track. He got back to me. We ended up having a phone call. First time I've really spoken to the guy, by the way. I met him at like media days and stuff, like through work. And then, yeah, after the phone call, I think on the phone call, he was literally just like, no, I want you to host the podcast with me, which that was never my intent. My intent was always to produce the podcast, to like help someone make the podcast and just make it like a killer brand and do something in Australia that hasn't been done before. But he's like, no, I want you on there with me, which I found very cool. I was like, I'm not sure I do, like, I'm not sure I want to because I'm not really in front of the camera often. Once again, the challenge word. But I'm like, no, let's do it. And then fast forward to this day, we've both been, well, I've been to his wedding. He was invited to my wedding, but once again, was in the NBA, a bit hard to do. But yeah, now he's one of my closest friends. So it's like really cool that we went from like, hey, let's do a podcast together with me just producing to like a close friend now. So
it's a great example of what this type of stuff can do. Like your friendship with Jack is one of the most wholesome thing that I think I've watched from the outside, because he's probably the most normal athlete that even the stories you tell me and how he approaches things and talks to you, like I think it's a cool, that wouldn't have happened if you didn't do this type of stuff, right? Like if you weren't proactive in creating podcasts, it's what, 2-3 years?
Exactly.
Is that how long it's been? But hey, you've been to Germany together, you've been to each other, invited to each other's weddings, you still speak to this day. I have no doubt you'll still continue the podcast in some form of him from Houston in America, from the NBA. Like, how cool is that? And he's still like, I think sometimes think that if you host a podcast with an athlete, I'm not going to say it's like a fake, it's like a partnership, you just work with them. But no, Darren and Jack are mates. Like they're on, even like when they're recording podcasts, like your early episodes, you can tell you barely know each other. And that's fine. That's what it helps with. But they almost got to know each other by talking to each other on the podcast as a weekly thing to do it. And I guess my point is just that it goes beyond trying hobbies, because it's friendships. That's wholesome, but it's true.
no, it's true. And it's a great point. Like we literally didn't know each other at the start. Episode 1 was us being like episode 1, I remember we were like, let's say to each other what we know about the other one. And he was just like, you work at the NBL and like some sort of the media or digital team. And then he's like, do you, just ask. He's like, what exactly do you do? And I'm like, well, how dare you? No, but then we go from that, like, the Germany thing. I still find that so cool. We lived together in Germany and he hosted me because he was playing over there for a season. Like, super cool. And just like the most genuine, lovely dude as well.
I think, and that's what's so good about doing these things, because you don't know what will come from it. Like in other circumstances, you might do a side hobby that leads to a job overseas. Like that's not a stretch. Starting these things creates opportunities that you don't even know exist.
That's exactly right. That's the best part about any of this, because you don't know what can come from it.
Yeah. No.
And he got his first NBA minutes yesterday and bricked a few layups.
Did he?
Nah, there was just one highlight, but Cam Whitmore threw him a bad pass, so don't worry about that.
But it's still cool to see his progress. Your last one, which is still active and current and booming.
It's flying.
I haven't listened to it for a while, but I definitely know it exists.
So Barco and Basketball, I'm like, it's literally a solo podcast, which once again, great challenge. Try talking to yourself on camera. Actually, I'm not even on camera. It's an audio only podcast, which I think is a very good thing to do, Michael. Yeah. Anyway, it's just me talking about NBA, and it's something I'm very much enjoying because it's a challenge, and I get to enjoy I get to talk about what I'm passionate about.
You know what's great about this? I listened to the first few ones. They still pop up on my Spotify, but the best thing about this is a good example of Darren being dedicated to something, because he told me he wanted to do it. You're doing this to become a better speaker. In reality, you're talking about your passions, but you're doing it to become a better speaker and put reps in. You said to me the idea, and then I'm just like, I'd probably never listen to a solo podcast. Yeah. And and you kept doing it, you're still doing it. But you've taken the challenge to like make it entertaining by basically using audio grabs from external sources to make it that much more engaging. So it's like a good example for me of doing something if you're interested in it, but then also knowing that it's not going to be your biggest strength to talk by yourself for 20 minutes without adding anything else, and you've got to be creative.
And I don't know, like I know I'm getting better at it as well. Like I listen to episodes now, like you try to look on repeat just to be like, hey, what can I improve on? Is this actually entertaining? But it doesn't. I actually don't care that they get like 5 listens, and my dad is a loyal listener. Like I don't really care. I know I'm getting better, and it's like a little challenge for myself. It's like you grow as a person, you grow as a speaker. Talking is hard, especially when you just like record by yourself, and you're like, how do I stay? Like I'm very passionate about this stuff, but I also know my biggest strength isn't showing that passion.
Yeah. I'm going to loop this back to the very first point of having evidence of your passion, because that's been consistent through all of your side hustles. If Darren's job in the NBL goes more towards the media scene, you're starting to do stuff not on camera, but like it's not always just editing now. Who knows if you use that as a backlog of, hey, I can talk if you need me to. Like this is a consistent thing we've seen in your examples here, that you refer back to that and it actually something comes from it. So
exactly. It's just like you get the reps enough to grow as a person and grow as a skill. And then you get to a point where you're like, hey, I know I'm actually good at this now. And then if you want to pursue anything else in front of camera in a professional sense, again, you have that evidence. We need a word, like you have that, that supporting figure.
Proof of passion?
Yeah. Just
POP.
like, hey,
proof of passion.
You're like, hey, I can do this. Look at that content over there. I can do it.
Let's
even if
name
you're
this episode proof of... Anyway.
Yeah, proof of passion. Don't know. Anyway, but yeah, Barker and basketball. I'm still very much enjoying it, and it exists even if you don't listen to every episode, Michael, or any. But I don't care.
That's fine. You don't, and you honestly don't care. I know you're just saying that.
I don't care.
As the tears well down from his face. And it might... Sorry, another quick thought. It might not even be that Darren's chasing talking on camera. Something might happen in the NBL scene one day, or even in a freelance scene where it's just like, we need someone to host this. Darren's always there filming. Can we ask him? And then like, well, actually, like, listen to how I speak, and then boom. It could happen. Yeah,
I think that's the best part about it all. But Michael, I've waffled on very much.
It's been good.
I told you talking was a skill.
Just listen to our advice and practice talking if you need it. Are there any points? I know you're about to wrap it up and move to my much shorter list, but still have a list. Are there any overall points that you haven't covered to wrap up think about it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 points we've talked about.
Out of my 16 side projects, even though 10% remain active, I'd say, whatever.
It's actually 14. I counted too fast.
Out of my 14 projects, 10% remain active, but I don't regret a single one, because everyone has taught me a different thing. And I know that sounds like I'm being sarcastic or whatever, but it's true. Yeah. Because every one of these you do for a different reason. As you can hear or see, you can see that they're all different. They tug at different skill sets along the way.
Yeah. So create it, try it.
Exactly. Michael, I can't wait to talk about your 3 things. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk on
Big time.
Michael 33. That was your first personal YouTube, but my memory of that is you trying to catch up to me.
Well, yeah, we did say, so you started the YouTube scene, and I think I was short after, but I sort of just made it. I think I was actually mainly Clippers, like Los Angeles Clippers. Michael, it wasn't every NBA team.
And that, I don't know whether this was under the MMM Michael 33 banner.
It's not great to say.
So branding was not a strong point as well, but you just have to do it, which is the theme here. But my favorite memory of Michael's YouTube editing was your 90-minute Blake Griffin. Yeah. Yep. So Michael was obsessed with Blake Griffin, who's retired now, Clippers player, whatever, one of the best Clippers in history. But he literally made a 90-minute YouTube video on highlights. And I was just like, to this day, that's phenomenal. Round of applause.
I still love it. I've clicked on that thing before, and I could sit there for the whole thing again.
It's actually it's a pretty wild achievement to just be like, I'm passionate enough, and I don't know how many views that thing has, but credit to you.
I mean, so it's 90 minutes of chronological game highlights of Blake Griffin's career with a bit of storytelling in between the game highlights. So I want you to think about what was this? 8 years ago or something? Longer?
Something, yeah.
So I want you to think about the effort it took to find as many games as possible on the YouTube or online scene, but then order it in chronological order and cut up the best highlights of Blake Griffin. Can you imagine how many hours I put into that thing?
No, that's what I mean. It's genuinely very, very impressive. It speaks to your work ethic, your passion, but I don't think I've watched that. You say you haven't listened to my 20-minute podcast episodes, which you can just put in your ears and go on a walk or something. I had to just sit there.
I think you would have watched a bit of it.
I've definitely watched. There was an effort. I made all those years ago that I'm like, no, he's put in the effort. I have to watch some of it. But credit to you.
Thank you. I think my first YouTube channel was more, you could say I niched down to clippers first.
Yes.
That was probably the main difference. And then we've talked about Brotherhood Studios. That was fun for me because I do remember, as I said, you were probably into the YouTube editing a bit more, but that made me take it a bit more seriously. Put a logo behind it. Joined forces with the almighty DJ235. Steal his subscribers.
I think that was all your idea as well, combining to form Brotherhood
Was
Studios. I seem to remember you being like, I don't know why, but I do remember it may have been your doing.
I think, not to talk myself off a bit, but I think there's a consistent theme. I have been the ideas man sometimes.
You have. Even getting us, progressing us from, we used to play footy and then you're like, let's play basketball.
True.
And I'm like, don't know about
Maybe
it.
it's
But
the older sibling in me. 1 minute is of growth and maturity.
The leader.
Anyway, next one. This is one I want to talk about. Platform. What do you remember, if I say the word platform, what do you remember that was? Because, Darren, you had a lot of brands, but this was probably the one I think about when someone would ask me, was there a brand you created that you were really, you really invested in? Like, what was your favorite side brand that you made? Platform would be it for me.
I reckon this is probably like your one you spent most time on, right?
Yeah, that's sort of what I mean, I guess, yeah.
That's sort of what I said. But no, I was trying to think back to when I was reading this list and I didn't want to like I assume the Instagram page and stuff still exists.
Yeah, it still exists. @use platform.
That's why it was use platform. So when I was trying to think back to this, I'm like, what the hell was platform? Because I know it was it was sport related. Was it just basketball?
So I'll give you a rundown.
Was it like hang on, this is my guess of what it was. It was like not just basketball, it was like no, I think I've got it. Was it just like it was a platform for like lower leagues in terms of footy and local basketball and local footy, a platform for them to showcase their highlights?
Correct, but only basketball.
Oh.
So if you're into your basketball scene, if you're into your basketball scene over time, you would be familiar with basketball highlights, college highlights. It was basically, I was trying to emulate that in Australian culture because I just thought that we don't post enough about ourselves and showcase our highlights. But do you remember when I first launched Platform? I secretly made this video to launch it, showed you and Elise, and you genuinely told me that this was like the best thing I've ever made. Do you remember that?
No.
I vividly remember watching on the side of the armchair that you were describing before that we used to video edit. I surprised you with this animation video to launch what Platform was, and you were so like impressed by it.
No,
I'll show you it before. I'll show you it.
I was going to say I should go back and watch it because I don't remember being impressed by it. No.
So
I do remember it was a good brand and an idea.
It's actually terrible to look back on. I don't know. Like I was watching it before. Like it's like this animation of this bouncing ball. But anyway, to recap what it was showing highlights of everyone in the basketball scene. So NBL, WNBL, but then lower leagues. And I even went as far to like have my own platform athletes. So like I approached, if you look at if you look at the Instagram, I announced athletes that were like platform athletes because because I had like lower league, nobody had really heard of them. Be funny if they actually turned into people, but my idea was like I wanted to follow their careers, and even if it was their dad filming him on a local sideline game and they make a nice play, give it to me and I'll post it, because the whole idea was in Australia, tall poppy syndrome exists. We don't celebrate each other and we don't use a platform. So I wanted people to use my platform. The whole thing was platform, use it. Send me your highlights. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate the best basketball players in Australia.
I reckon you're itching to start it back up. I can hear passionate.
It's still a good idea. And I remember I made like wallpaper Wednesdays. I made graphics of NBL and WNBL players. And the next bit I remembered about this, I employed people, not employed, but I got people to live tweet WNBL and NBL games.
I do not remember any of this, and part of it sounds illegal.
Go on. It's on Twitter @useplatform. I used to literally get people, again, because NBL wasn't as big as it is now. It's like an external media outlet, like House of Highlights, covering games.
Jeez,
but I literally had a roster of, I think there were 3 other people, and between us we'd cover most games, just live tweet it. No interaction, no engagement, whatever. I don't know why they did it. I definitely didn't. I didn't pay them. They just wanted. I think they were into like journalism and like that side of the media.
Wow, this is all. I don't remember.
It's gonna take off.
I don't. I've wondered where you spent all those hours lately. That's not on this business, but I literally don't remember all that effort going into platform. But all the power to you. If you employed people, you had people doing other stuff for you. You had athletes under your brand. No, I'm genuinely impressed, and I don't remember that.
Can you actually? I want you to look at the Instagram after we
should.
But what I guess what's important to take from this is like if I learned anything from it, and similar to all of your stuff, is just to if you've got an idea that you're genuinely, you can tell the way I'm speaking about it that I'm still enthusiastic about it, or I think it could have been a thing. You've got to just give it a go because I don't know where that would have helped me today in terms of
no, but like the thing about
skill set or
content production, like social media use and knowledge, and like even to the business now in terms of, I don't know, in a small way, operating like the admin side of it. Like, I don't know, you actually don't know where these skills come from.
And I think that's the beauty of it because you might not be able to identify, oh, hey, that might have been the first Instagram page I probably tried to manage or tweeted stuff. You don't know where these skills, you might not be able to identify the skills, but they're sort of ingrained in you that from experiences that you've got now.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Platform. Use platform.
Use it.
Jesus. And okay, next one. I'm going to go to your next one because the next one I said there's a few that's lasted for around a month for me. I reckon this one lasted around a month.
What are you talking about?
Go and introduce it.
But so Barker's Way was a pet photography idea that me and Elise had, and we were inspired by this. I remember the morning we were having breakfast together at a cafe, and Elise, I think there's always been a bit that because Elise managed, I think, the social media for a real estate job she once had.
Geez, that's right. Yeah.
So there was like a side of me that I was like, you're like good at this stuff. So we thought, let's use our passion for dogs, and we love pets, and create a pet photography brand.
I will say, out of all your ideas, like, not saying this is the best one, but out of all your ideas in terms of combining your skills and Elise's skills and passion in like absolute pet lover, great with all that side of things of like knowledge and looking after pets and all that stuff. Combining both of those things and putting into a photography business that it's a place where people know you're going to get quality shots of your pets and just be like, hey, no, let's put your pets on a pedestal and like, you know, do some proper portrait photography. And there's probably different layers to the brand as well once it evolved, but I don't think you ever. Oh wait, no, you did a shoot with one of our friends, right?
Yeah, we did. Catherine and Mark, we did it with their greyhound, and I had visions for this, Darren. Like, I think this is something that people would actually invest in. We didn't do it because I was essentially busy enough, and so was Elise. But this is like a niche that people pay for and can specialize in.
People love their pets. Yeah. It's like pet portraits.
Like,
as in pet like artwork.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my idea was this: like, you see how big some pet brands are in terms of like working with companies that make leads, that make toys, that make food, that it's almost like pet influencers, like they use that brand. I could see that brand turning into working with people that make collars. Like,
yeah, like,
that stuff booms. I don't know why I'm using the word booms, but
no, it's true. It's literally like you find your niche. Your niche would be like pets, Australia, content, and then all these brands are like, hey, once again, proof.
Really boring topic for people that aren't into pets, but it's all content. And let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Content catch-up.
Content catch-up. This was my first ever podcast.
Shout out to Jules. What's his last name?
Jules Wallace. Julian Wallace. Good man. So this was...
Give us some background.
This was... Jules and I were both working at the Carlton Football Club, loved the social media content, loved the social media space, but we wanted to talk about it more and probably give... not advice, but just talk about what people are doing in this space more than we were doing at Carlton. So called the content catch up. It was exactly that. It was a catch up of content. Each week we'd pick one bit of one topic or one example to show each other, and we'd review it. It was good fun, lots of banter. Ended up dying because there were no real goals associated with it. It sort of moved past the point of being enjoyable. And I think it's a good point for the viewers that don't be afraid to call it quits on things because I don't regret stopping it at all. It was great fun and amazing, but time, dedication, and effort to do something, you can't sort of undervalue that, and you got to choose what you want to spend your time on.
It's so true because like content catch up was something I know me and my family, I was gonna say mum and dad, but definitely dad. Like me and dad, I really enjoyed listening to you guys every week, and it was just kind of cool to hear what you guys are going through work, and then I'm obviously invested in the digital sports scene and digital content scene. It was a really cool podcast, but then once you get to that point where you're just like, wait, why am I doing this? And you're probably doing this, I'd imagine, any of these things, you want to do it for enjoyment. You're passionate about something, but if you lose it and it becomes a chore and you're like, we have to record a podcast this week, like we should, quote unquote. If you just feel like that, it's a good thing if you stop, if you get to that stage. Like, you can push on and maybe it'll lead to something, but if you literally, it's a chore and you're doing that instead of spending quality time with your family or whatever, probably not a great.
Yeah. I needed goals for it, and we didn't, and that was fine. It was just a side hobby that wasn't meant to make money or anything. But anything from Content Catch Up that you remembered from it?
Well, I reckon
about me, about the show, about...
Well, you guys had fun with it, and there was like a few segments like Egg of the Week and stuff. Like, you guys had fun with it, and families, dogs. If there's nothing like that, you guys, it was almost like, it's called a content catch up for a reason, because it was content, and then you guys were genuinely like catching up about some things and just asking each other such normal questions. And I feel like that's such a big part of content in general. Like, you have to have that balance.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I probably didn't mention that. It's a very good point, because it was a catch up of content, but in the way of catching up with each other, because we both work in content. It wasn't just content.
Oh, and also, so I'm just going to touch on, you touched on mine and Jack's journey. This brought you and Jules much closer as well. Like, again, it's the benefits of doing this stuff, because you form lifelong friendships, like, out of it. You can. That's a realistic thing that both of us has probably shown.
Yeah, no, it has. And the final point on this one, before we move on to my final 2 points, including 2 times creative, this was the start of me being able to speak a bit better. Do you remember how awful I was when I started that?
Well, not vividly.
I do. I look back on those things and I quiver.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty. I think that's you have to have enjoyment of that stuff. Actually looking back and being
shit.
Quivering. What's a quiver? Come on.
No, I some of that stuff, I remember the first couple of episodes, even looking at the recording, like there's this awkward red-faced Michael, croaky voice. I mean, still are to a degree, but croaky voice sitting there. Speed talking, just talking really fast through everything, which we both are victims of to this day. But I remember you telling me, we did 4 seasons of that podcast.
Michael, are you sure you want to continue doing
No.
this?
No, I was going the other way. I remember you telling me how good I've become, like Jules and I both talking in podcasts. Like, you were saying that the way I explain things has just gotten so much better compared to the early season 1 days.
Well, that's so true. And it's like with anything, the more you
do
you'd
it,
hope, the better you're going to get at it. It's like with, that reminds me of the first episode with me and Jack. I remember I was in my kitchen and I was trying to set up my proper camera to make it look all good. But then the way I did it, I was kind of like all hunched over my laptop, like kind of like trying to awkwardly talk to this professional basketball player, acting like I'm like cool and smooth with it as like a host. I don't know. It's very funny to look back on. But Content Catch Up was a great period in your life, Michael.
No, it was. And in many ways, it got me confident enough to speak on camera to do this type of stuff.
Exactly right. Sorry, too many Michaels in.
Good point about being yourself. Good point about being yourself with you and Jack, though, because something about the vulnerability and like the daunting nature of talking on camera, you quickly find out that you can't pretend to be someone you're not. Like, I've heard people talk about, and maybe it's a good little segue topic, that when they're on camera or talking to camera, they almost embrace being someone different. Like, they acknowledge that I've got to be extra enthusiastic. I've got to be Mick, not Michael. I'm Mick on camera, but I don't agree with that, because the best we've both been with all these things is when you don't try to be anything you're not and just show your quirks. Like, we embrace how poorly we talk sometimes. Like, things like that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion. Maybe we can talk about it more in depth. But I think there's 2 sides of that. Like, I kind of get I remember Stephen A. Smith, like NBA sport, people kind of dislike him or whatever, but he is super loud and energetic on camera. Like, he just says some crazy things, he shouts or whatever. I remember there was a podcast and he was just like, you know what, I'm really quiet and chill off camera. Like, he and apparently people backed him up and was just like apparently he's just really quiet. And it's strange. Crazy. Like, so maybe you do have 2 personalities, but I was just going to quickly say, I like, you're not meant to like fake it. But for me and you, for example, I think we've gotten better at like, hey, we've always had this passion, but maybe you do have to work on ways to show that passion on screen because you understand it's content and you understand if you're really monotone or really like low about stuff you're genuinely passionate about inside, it's not going to come across as well. So to get better at your craft, maybe you work on being a bit more enthusiastic.
I don't know if
it's not faking. It's kind of just like you're working on how to actually showcase that passion that you are on the inside.
Yeah, I think you can certainly work on it, but I think people can tell when you're passionate about something, even if you're just like, I love it. Like you don't, like if you talk slow, deliver like, you can tell when someone's passionate about it. So I don't think I necessarily agree with you there, Darren. I think for people like Stephen A. Smith, I think what I'm trying to say is when you're starting a side hustle or your job isn't to speak on camera, be 300% you. Sure, if you're locally Kane Corns or Stephen A. Smith and you find yourself in a position where you excel is being this opinionated bad guy or bad girl, naughty, that's when you can start to put on a bit of a show or find a character. Like you hear of like, is it Beyonce that has the onstage?
Don't know, you're dropping knowledge I didn't know you had.
Beyonce or Rihanna. I don't know, it's like a famous, anyway, it's going to sound stupid, but they have an onstage. I think it's
Rihanna.
I think it's Beyonce. But yeah, I don't agree with you that I think you can find ways to be more enthusiastic, but people can tell if you're passionate about something even if you don't scream at the camera.
Good discussion. Great discussion. Next 2 points. And I was gonna like start shouting and show some enthusiasm.
We can wrap this up because they sort of loop in together. But I created my own personal website like you did. I don't know who did it first.
No, I think you did. You definitely did. Yep. There's the trend that once you said you're the ideas man, you
just follow,
put it into the world, and I'm like, not a bad idea.
I don't think I'm the ideas man. I think I'm the collaboration man. Because with Brotherhood Studios, we both did it.
Ideas man sounds much better.
We both did it. I wanted to combine. We both did everything freelance. I wanted to combine the 2 times creative. But anyway, so I created michaelbarker.au. Is .au an odd thing to claim? Is that good?
No, I think there was a phase where I was like, why do people go .au over .com or .com.au? But .au is definitely more recent, I think.
Yeah.
It's like you can do it.
This was the start of my interest in personal branding, I think, from what I reflect on it. So that was when I basically made a website showcasing all my freelance work. And my title, it's still there, is The Person, Not Just the Athlete. So I think that's when I dived into what do I love about working in content and sport? Well, it's storytelling of the person, not just the athlete. So I made a website dedicated to showcasing my photography and videography about people and athletes.
I remember doing...
And myself.
I remember doing a photo shoot for you on the near Pran, like brick walls.
I still use a lot of them.
Graffiti, yeah. It speaks to if you're starting something else and you starting something up and you want to like make it look good and showcase who you are. Get a photo shoot with us.
Great point.
That was my pitch. Get a photo. Literally, it's kind of like developing your brand. It's like your brand playbook. Like, hey, we have all these photos and stuff. It can form your website. It can form your social media. It can form the beginning of your personal brand.
And not even joking, that's been actually one of the most powerful and beneficial things I've found with 2 Times Creative. Things like posting on LinkedIn, our website, whatever it is where we need proper imagery of us. And I could be repeating it across multiple LinkedIn posts. It doesn't matter. But having actual photos of us being stupid, putting our arms around each other, whatever, serious looking ones... Yep. It actually helps so much. So I couldn't recommend more. If you want to start something, get content to almost give you confidence. It's like confidence from the content.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, the amount of times it comes into use. Think about the power of just like words and then the power of seeing imagery with that person.
Yeah.
Like having fun with like their brother. There was a few times you just put one where we were just being stupid and laughing and our faces look funny and stuff. But even though it's not perfect photography or we're just like we don't look like models or anything, it's relatable. You're like, no, that is actually who we are. Like
it's not what it's meant to.
Yeah. So yeah, do yourself a favor and get like actual photos and stuff done for your brand because they come in handy.
Yeah. All right. And current days, we're here. 2 Times Creative started from all of that combined, what you went through with your stuff and what I went through with my stuff. So I think it's been fun to reflect on. Did you have something?
No, well, just as just a little point at the end. But you go.
Oh, you can save it for after this. I think it's just fun to reflect on everything that we created, and the biggest bit of advice that I could give is to just create whatever comes to mind. I mock Darren a bit for it these days, but that's probably because we are at both the point in our lives where we've done a lot of stuff already, and you've only got so much time and dedication or time that you want to spend with. I always joke about him creating a 4th podcast, or he could just spend more time with his family and Jess.
Oh no, that it's a good call. Priorities, like you have to, even though you have motivation, weigh it up with what that's going to take and when you're going to do it and if you have time.
When you're young, though, like from these examples, just start it, create it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway. Just do it. I genuinely think it's a strength to have that motivation to do something. Just do it, because you don't know what's going to come from it. If all else fails, it literally just removes that thought or idea in your mind that you want to do it. Like, it's like, okay, I tried it.
Yeah.
I can now move on and do something else.
Move on to the next thing, which is actually what it's about.
And it's fun. Like, the amount of lessons and stuff we've both taken from all this stuff, and even reflecting upon it all, you're like, oh, I remember that. Oh, that taught me this.
Yeah.
Oh, I met so-and-so who now funds me. Like, who now pays my invoice. Like,
He's
I don't
one
know.
of my close friends, or our first ever job. I love that you remember the first ever job.
It's cool. It's a really cool reflection thing. Damn it! What was I about to say after? Oh no! Yes, sorry.
Land it.
You should title you should title the episode. Nah, it has nothing to do with side hustles. But I'm landing the plane here because I finally remembered, not what I was saying earlier, but just what I was thinking of then. But it would be really cool. Anyone listening to this that's like, 1, hey, I've tried many things in the past that have failed or have potential, or 2, I have ideas that I'm thinking about doing. It'd be really cool to actually just hear them. Whether you're emailing us at 2xcreative@gmail.com or you're submitting a video message, I don't know, an audio message. It'd be really cool to be like, it could just be like, hey, I really want to try this, but I'm not sure why I'm doing it. Or I did try this, and this feedback. This is why it failed, or this is why it succeeded. Like, it'd be really cool to see what other people have gone through.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point. So please reach out if that is you, or if you're thinking of starting something, as Darren said. If you've got an idea that you want to we can be the first people you talk to about it.
Exactly. Give us the goss, and we have to get out of here because I'm ready to start a new podcast.
Literally. But no, we hope that's been valuable to you. If they have any questions about any of the combined close to 20 things we've talked about today, because it has realistically been 15 odd brands or names of things that we've identified that we've created over 10, 15 years from when we're editing on our armchairs next to each other to what we're doing today. So if you've got any questions, literally ask us anything about our learnings, what we might not do again or might do differently. I think that's always fun takeaways. But hey, that's been episode 9. We appreciate you listening. Throw us a message. Throw us an email, 2xcreative@gmail.com, as you said. Darren, any final remarks?
No, if you want to become a platform athlete, just I still can't believe you did. That's very cool.
Check it out, Darren. You'll appreciate it afterwards.
No, I got nothing else. Thanks for listening. It's cool what we've done in the past and what we're continuing to do.